Millions of people go on cruises every year and have an amazing and pretty chill vacation. But there are some things that you're not allowed to do, that you shouldn't do, and some interesting ways that you can get kicked off a cruise ship. Hi there, I'm Ilana from the website lifewellcruise.com. Welcome back to my channel. Now, whether you've been cruising for a while or you're a new cruiser, well, there are some pretty surprising and even interesting ways that people can and have gotten kicked off a cruise ship. Now, some of these are going to be pretty obvious. You just can't do them anywhere. But a lot of these are specific to cruise ships and just might surprise you. Now, before I get started, I did want to mention that if you like this video, if you find it helpful, informative, or enjoyable in any way, then please do give this video a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Let's get started. Number one, throwing anything overboard. Now, not only is this littering, but it really is against the rules, and cruise lines take this very seriously because it can and does damage the ocean environment. There have been people that have gotten kicked off cruise ships, like just let off at the next port because their kids have thrown cutlery off cruise ships. Other people, in some sort of drunkenness, it seems, have actually thrown their balcony furniture overboard. Obviously, this is something you cannot do and can get you kicked off a cruise ship. Number two, getting into a physical fight on board a cruise ship. Now, I think that we've all probably seen at least one TikTok video or maybe YouTube video of a brawl on a cruise ship. Honestly, it does not end well for the people that start or even for the people that physically really get into that fight. I don't think anybody here watching this video is going to do that. But definitely this is something to avoid at all costs because it will likely get you kicked off a cruise ship. Number three, bringing any illegal substances on board. Now, I am talking about things that could be gummies and things that you might smoke on a cruise ship. I'm being careful with my words, by the way, because this is YouTube, but I think that you do know what I mean. But even if something is legal in the place that you live, like for instance, your state or your province, it is not allowed on a cruise ship. And in part, that's because they visit many different places, many different countries that might have different laws. So this is something, if you look at the cruise line websites, they are pretty clear about this. And as a matter of fact, you might even encounter sniffer dogs before you even board the cruise ship. And even once on the cruise ship, it can happen that if found, this can get you booted off the cruise ship. Number four, tampering with any of the onboard safety equipment. So this includes the tender boats. This includes the fire extinguishers. This includes pulling an alarm. All of that can get you kicked off the cruise ship. Number five, stealing. Stealing from other passengers, stealing from the stores in the cruise ship. And honestly, I don't think it probably happens very often, but there have been cases where cruise ships get back to their final disembarkation port and there are police waiting for people on the cruise ship that did steal jewelry and other items from the stores. Giving a drink to somebody who's not supposed to be drinking. Now, what I am talking about is giving a drink to a minor. Now, on cruises, you know what? It's a fun environment. There are drink packages, and definitely drinking a little bit is part of the cruise culture. It doesn't have to be, but it is a little bit. But one thing that nobody should do, and people should really watch it, is not give a drink to a minor in a club or anywhere else. Number seven, fishing off the cruise ship. Now, this is definitely one of the most interesting ways to get kicked off a cruise ship. Who would ever think? But yes, there was somebody who did bring a fishing line to fish off his cruise ship. Now, maybe he wouldn't have been caught, except that he did share this on social media, and my understanding was he wasn't allowed to return to the cruise ship. Now, our next one is mistreating the crew. Now, there is absolutely no place for that. It does happen sometimes that people are discourteous. They shouldn't be, but sometimes people do have their gripes. But if anybody crosses a line and they're actually abusive to the crew, that will not be tolerated. Now, something else not to do, and it could have these kinds of dire consequences, is entering restricted areas. So there are places where it's only accessible for the crew. Passengers should not go there, and according to the cruise contract, it could lead you to be booted off the cruise ship. Public indecency. I don't know another way to say this, but you know what? Keep the clothes on, and people are going to do different things. But remember, your balcony is not that private. And there was a case, and this is just one time, but there was a case where there was a couple that was actually asked to leave by, I guess it was the captain or whoever was in charge, because they were being too loud during their fun time on the balcony. So do with that what you will. Bringing weapons or ammunition on board or into cruise ports of call. Now this one's a little bit more serious, so I'm going to take a second. There were a couple of cases where people unfortunately brought ammunition with them, went into a cruise port of call, and then they were arrested there. And of course, they weren't allowed to come back onto the cruise ship. So it's not only to not bring ammunition on the cruise ship, this could be something that could even be left in your bag that you might use to travel. So be very, very careful, because it can actually have pretty dire circumstances beyond not being allowed back on the ship. Now, speaking of cruise ports of call, being a pier runner potentially could get you, well, you might get yourself kicked off the cruise ship. And that's because some people actually arrive late to the cruise ship in a cruise port of call, and then the cruise ship can, and unfortunately often does, leave without them. Now, they'll leave your personal belongings that you really need. For instance, if you have a passport that's left in your safe in your cabin. But after that, that's left with the port agent, and you're on your own to get yourself home or to the next port. Using a drone without permission in restricted areas. Now, cruise ships actually have pretty strict rules around drone use, and usually while you're sailing you wouldn't be allowed to use a drone. And even bringing a drone on a cruise ship, you want to check the cruise line website to see exactly what the rules are. In some cases you're not allowed to bring it at all. In other cases they will permit it, but the cruise ship security has to keep it. And in other cases they will allow you to bring it, store it in your cabinet, and only take it off in ports, and make sure to fly it in the specific allowable areas. Not completing your muster drill and safety check-in before sail away. Now, if any guests decide they don't want to do the muster station check-in and they refuse to do it, they can actually be left right at the embarkation port. Now, I imagine this must be very rare for it to happen, but it is the rule that all guests have to do this before sail away. And you don't want to be that person whose name is called over the intercom and be the reason that that ship is late leaving. Now, speaking of that, disobeying the crew instructions. When you're on a cruise ship, the captain is actually the boss of everything, and you do have to listen to the officers and the captain. And if you don't, if you're an unruly passenger, which you are not. If you're watching this video, you are not. But there have been some people that happen, and they do get kicked off the cruise ship. Causing a major disturbance. Now, has anybody seen any of these videos of YouTubers that are sometimes causing like a major disturbance on a cruise? I think that their intention oftentimes is to get kicked off a cruise ship, but it definitely does happen. But beyond those very extreme cases, any domestic disturbances or really, unruly behavior that is to an extreme, that can and does get people kicked off a cruise ship. Smoking in non-designated areas of the cruise ship. Now, when it comes to smoking, there are specific smoking areas of the cruise ship, usually a couple of outdoor locations, and sometimes in the casino. But on most major cruise lines, you are not allowed to smoke on your balcony, and elsewhere. And if you are caught, you can be actually kicked off a cruise ship. Maybe they'll warn you first. I'm really not sure. But whether you're smoking cigarettes or anything else, this is something not to do on your balcony. Climbing or sitting on railings. Now, not only is this extremely dangerous, honestly, there have been people that have fallen into the ocean or even onto the ground below. So dangerous, but cruise lines really do take it seriously, and there have been some people that have actually posted themselves online. It's been a few years, but standing or sitting on the balcony railing, and actually the cruise ship has not only booted them off the ship, but sometimes they are banned for life. Now, speaking of being banned from a cruise ship, jumping off the cruise ship. Now, this is really something very rare, but jumping off the cruise ship, there has been a case of somebody that jumped off a cruise ship. I think it was already like in 2013 or something like that. Now, thank God for him. He ended up surviving that jump. I think since then he has realized this was really something very stupid, but my understanding is he remains banned from cruising. Excessive drunkenness. Now, a lot of the different things we talked about in this video could all combine some excessive drunkenness, but excessive drunkenness in itself can leave a passenger to be confined to their cabin. That does happen sometimes, to even be placed in the brig. That would be less likely, but is possible, and also to be kicked off the cruise or banned from future cruises. Now, please let me know, have you seen any of these things on a cruise, or did I miss anything? Please let me know down in the comments below. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Bye for now, and happy cruising.